As the Senior Vice President and co-founder of the Orlando Magic, Pat Williams has had a busy and successful career in sports, but he never let his work interfere with his plans for a family. Pat is the father of 19 children. 14 have been adopted from other countries. For the first 10 years of his marriage, Pat had no interest in adoption. He and his first wife already had 3 children of their own, but his wife's insistence finally swayed Pat. His life was changed after he saw a photo of 2 beautiful orphan girls in South Korea.
Through the Holt Children's Services in Eugene, Oregon, we learned that South Korea was the nation you could most readily adopt from, and we also learned there were 2 little girls, 2 and 3 years old, that were available. We had a grainy little black and white photo to look at, some sketchy medical records, and the vote was, let's do it.
Sister Sarah and Andrea were the first to be adopted by Pat from South Korea. They are both now grown and raising families of their own. Along with their sister Danny, one of the last children to be adopted, they recount the circumstances that led to their joining this large and diverse family.
Well, Sarah and I, we were the first 2 to be adopted. I was 2, she's a year older. We were given up, we were born in Seoul, South Korea, and then we were placed in the police station in a basket, and that's where we went up to the orphanage.
I came to America, and there was about 14 brothers and sisters waiting for me with signs at the Orlando airport. I'm going up the escalade, and all I see, I see a sea of other kids. Yeah, different faces, different backgrounds, different culture, different language. That was a culture shock.
What was your thought at that particular time as you're seeing all these different faces?
Well, that's friends. I was like, well, I'm going to have a lot of friends, but in the back of my mind, that's my new family.
Being the parents to 19 children is no easy task. Both Ruth and Pat have had successful, demanding careers. Pat with different sports teams across the country, and Ruth with the prestigious Franklin Covey organization. Yet they never let their careers take away from the time spent with their family. They found a balance of love and discipline, along with prioritizing time spent with the kids, have allowed them to cope with raising such a diverse family.
I think making sure that each child gets their time, that's the key thing, and making sure you're available for them.
And I would say paying the bills.
Yeah.
Big families bring big issues, really. But having said that, we wouldn't go back and redo any of it. I'm a firm believer in international adoption. It's not for everybody, but those families that have a sense of risk, perhaps, or doing some off-the-wall stuff, I do encourage those families to really pursue international adoption. I've got 19 children, 14 adopted, but I forget which 14. And maybe that summarizes it best.
Now, Pat, as the Senior Vice President of the Orlando Magic, in your time spent with the 76ers, you've had a very busy yet prosperous career. How have you balanced that with raising 19 children?
I could have beaten myself up. I wasn't here all the time, but I made a high priority of being at the kids' events, their games, their swimming meets. I didn't want to miss that. And I didn't make unnecessary trips. But this was not a cheap undertaking. We'd be wealthy if we had a normal family, but we poured every resource we could, and that meant bringing home paychecks and speaking and writing books and doing everything I could to pay the bills. Balance is important. You do have to keep a balance in your life between job and family and your church activity and your physical fitness and your ongoing education, and it's a juggling act, but balance is awfully important.
To people who are intimidated by the idea of adopting children from another country, who may be hesitant to jump in, what would you say to them?
I would definitely recommend to adopt. It's a beautiful thing. You're helping a little child out who really doesn't have a family, someone to love them.
You're just basically going to give them a better future than what they would have had if you hadn't adopted them. I mean, I'm in a place in my life where I'm happy. I have 2 beautiful children. I'm married. And to think of not having that life is scary.